Hello and welcome to Elephant in the Room. It's probably like a one-off thing, but basically Final Fantasy VII gameplay trailer, PlayStation Experience 2015. Oh man, it was actually really good. I don't want this to be a stereotypical reactions video. I'm not going to show my face anyway because it's just audio overlaid, underlaid through the trailer. Um, but yeah, this game is very strange. It has a weird place in my history. Basically, I didn't exactly play it when it first came out. I was kind of late to the game on it, but it really has like a very special place in just like part of growing up. Basically, having a PSP and playing it on that, like a lot of times, especially the opening. So the gameplay trailer is basically the opening. Literally, it plays opening bombing mission song throughout it, which is a great remix of it. But yeah, it was super great. This was the only trailer at the keynote for PlayStation Experience 2015 that like actually gave me chills. Like I don't like being that type of overly emotional, crazy thing, and I don't hate people who do get overly emotional for games like this. But it was very strange and very cool to have that reaction to something because it's been a while. I mean, when E3 2015 went on, I had that reaction to, first The Last Guardian, then Final Fantasy VII Remake actually happening, and then, well, actually, no, I didn't care about Shenmue 3. But yeah, it was super cool to have this happen. And there's another trailer, Ni no Kuni 2, which also released later on at the PlayStation Experience keynote, that was really great. But it was really this one that really was like, oh my god, like I can't believe, for one, that they're actually showing gameplay, that for two, that they're so far along that they can show gameplay, and that three, it actually looks really good and pretty like a very. There's a lot of, I guess, lead up into this because what do you expect out of a remake of Final Fantasy VII, which is such a strange game, such a weird late 90s JRPG on the PlayStation 1. First kind of like 3D Final Fantasy game. Kind of weird, has a lot of weird parts to it. I mean, the characters are wacky and wild, and he's got a shoulder pad on one arm, but not the other for whatever reason. So it's just like it's a very strange game to remake, especially in modern era. I mean, they did Advent Children, but Advent Children was very different from Final Fantasy VII, the game proper. So I just kind of wanted to do a video on this because it's so big, it's kind of hard. You kind of can't do something about it, and I didn't want to do something written. I wanted to do something audio wise. So anyway, the trailer starts off with the train mission. There's one scene in it actually where there's some Shinra soldiers watching a train go away, and that's actually involved later in where you jump on top of a trailer after being not captured but cornered by Shinra soldiers, infantrymen, not soldier. So legendary become real. It's kind of like the first thing you see. You get the nice little train shot with the two soldiers. I'm very curious to see if they're going to keep it in this game, where if you check the soldier's body twice, you actually get two potions, which is kind of like a rare glitch, and it's a very early on glitch. It's also going to be interesting to see if they keep the terrible localization, such as when you go into the sewer pipe with Eris and see the sick man and say, Eris says, "This man are sick." Very strange time for localization. Next thing you get to see is, I believe, Jessie unlocking the iron door, which is basically one of the first things you do that by talking to her. Then you got the Shinra soldiers, the guy looking for you in the train, and then you get your first look at Biggs, Wedge, and Jessie, and kind of like in their modern form. And Wedge has like two, not grenades, two magazines. They got the headbands. They are Avalanche, basically terrorists in Midgar. And you get some other looks at Midgar, kind of like the same shots from the remake trailer back in at E3 in June. So kind of quickly edits through that just so we can get to the new stuff, which is Wedge disabling one soldier, Jessie kicking him, and they've got like armor on their shins and like kind of like partial armor. Interesting. They got the headbands, which kind of identify them as all part of one person. You get your first good look at Barrett, who's got big, muscly, burly man soldier shoulders and sunglasses at night. Interesting choice, I guess. I guess it's because he's supposed to look cool or something. Then we get like kind of a tease of the first major boss fight against the giant spider, and Cloud and Barrett kind of getting ready for that. That also reminds me. I wonder what the save points are going to look like, if they're going to keep them, because Crisis Core was pretty faithful to what the save points looked like in reference to Final Fantasy VII save points, which were like these little crystal things that appeared. You also get your first good look at Barrett's chain gun arm. Doesn't look as goofy as I thought it would be. It actually kind of looks pretty cool. And then after that, we get first gameplay of Cloud walking through crushed concrete, which is probably after they actually destroy the reactor, I feel. That or they're making their way partially through the reactor. There's one part where he's creeping down underneath some stuff. And then before that, actually, there's the part where he's kind of like going through a wall, and it's pretty much Uncharted 2, where whenever you would enter these tight spaces, the camera would, pull in really quickly as you slowly made your way through it, probably to disguise the loading of the game as it's, loading up at the world beyond. Then you get the part where the explosion, so they can get out of the tunnel. Then you are out in Midgar. And it doesn't look that great. I mean, not, graphically. It's just in disarray. There's obviously fire and stuff going on. This is obviously the part where you get to meet Eris for the first time. They kind of show the Loveless sign. Well, not the Loveless sign, but the Market sign, which Loveless should be above it somewhere. And then you get the part where Cloud's being cornered by Shinra infantrymen. They're kind of, pulling up their guns on him, and he's kind of like sitting around. Barrett comes forward, tells get out of the way. It's pretty much the opening. They've got pistols, and then and then Wedge, I believe it's Wedge. He talks for the first time, and yeah, his voice is kind of weird. It's not exactly the voice that I imagined him having, but I guess it fits his character. It'll be interesting to see, because in the original game, I was very sad at their passing. Spoilers, they all die. It was very kind of sad because of, Wedge looked up to Cloud, even though he was kind of like an outsider and kind of a jerk, really. He was pretty much of a dick. And then we get Cloud getting some like weird flashbacks things. I think it'll be much easier to portray Cloud as a broken person in this one, more so than the previous game, or the original game. And then we get a first look at the gameplay. So as he's hitting the dude, his little meter below him actually is building up, which I guess would be the limit break, which would be cool to see. Yeah, because the next time when he's doing like the weird stuff that you saw in Advent Children where his sword lights up, the meter is red, which means that he was able to do that special move, which I guess would be the limit break. And then the menu options in the bottom left are attack, magic, summon, which you're not going to be able to do this early on, items, and defend. So it kind of looks like a little bit like Crisis Core. You got your HP and your MP meter. You can control Barrett or Cloud, depending on what you want. And then there's another part where Barrett's doing a Barrett. I fucking forget how you pronounce his name. He's doing one of his special big blast attacks, and his little meter is also red, which does mean that they are going to be bringing back the limit breaks, which is cool to see. Then some more cutscene stuff with the Clouds cornering him. So we're pretty much focusing on the very, very early parts. I would say maybe the first half hour. I'd have to replay it again, although I've replayed the opening section of the city so many times now. And then you get that was actually a really cool transition between Cloud on the train. He starts to look up, or at least he's coming towards you on the train, and then he all of a sudden looks up, and it's actually you inside the base, and then the scorpion mech thing comes after you, and that's like the first big boss fight. And then the last scene is basically Cloud jumping off of the train, just like he did in the original, and looking all cool and stuff. Some people have commented on the internet and stuff that he looks pretty skinny, which I thought he always did. So I don't get why people are thinking it's, kind of strange now. Also, people were commenting about how his face looks weird, which I don't see really. I don't really get how what the issue is with that, but whatever. So that's like super early gameplay look, which I don't mind. It's very surprising that they actually have gameplay. Then you, in the text of the trademark type stuff, you can see opening bombing mission, but from the Distant Worlds music from Final Fantasy. So they're kind of reusing, because Final Fantasy VII soundtrack has been redone and reorchestrated so many times that they have a lot of stuff that they could just pull and copy from that they've already done and put into this new soundtrack. So it's not like they are going to have difficulty remastering the Final Fantasy VII soundtrack, which already was great in MIDI form anyway. But a majority of it has already been redone for modern times and, for modern techniques and instruments and whatnot and recording equipment. So, Final Fantasy VII, It's still really crazy that they're actually doing it. And then they also had the news break that they're doing it episodically, which is, I mean, kind of strange. I don't really mind, as long as the way that they break it is at least in three parts and kind of matches where the discs get exchanged. So as long as the first game leads up to Eris's death, I am totally okay with that. If the first game ends at like a different time, like maybe when she leaves, I would kind of be a little bit weirded out by that, because then there's such a strange time gap in between her leaving and then you coming back and her dying, that I feel as if the emotional connection will have been severed due to the time difference of, the game releasing. So I don't know. They have to be really wise with where they do this. Another time they could cut it, I guess, would be right after you leave Midgar, because the Midgar section is actually, it takes quite some time. So if they leave Midgar and then break it up after that, I guess that could make sense. But who knows what they'll do? Who knows when this game will be out either? They've shown like the first half hour of the game and like very small snippets of gameplay from it. So who knows how much this game is actually finished? How much of that trailer was actually kind of, deceivingly pre-rendered cut gameplay type stuff, where it's like, oh, it's running on the game engine, but it actually is an in-engine, even though they claimed it's an engine, and it doesn't look like previous games. It didn't look like the Killzone 2 of E3, ye old E3, where they showed this immensely beautiful trailer, which I actually don't think was that beautiful, but and then the game, of course, doesn't look to people as good, even though I thought it actually looked it looked better than that trailer. But yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to talk about Final Fantasy VII because, yeah, God, I really like that game. I I admit that it does have a lot of faults, but man, that game is really special to me, and I'm really looking and very well. I'm looking forward to it, but only because I'm very curious as to what changes they make, what things they keep, and what the reaction to the game will be from both people who played it way back when, and also people who potentially have never played it. Because there are probably going to be a lot of people who pick this up because they've only heard about the original Final Fantasy VII. So it'll be interesting to see how people react to this being the version of Final Fantasy VII that they play for the first time. So that's it. You can find me on Twitter at number8axel. Most of the things I do is on dualshockers.com, but you can also find some other stuff I do in my free time on Illustrious Magic. But basically, follow me on Twitter. That's where you can find everything. And as always, thank you for watching.